You've addressed some of these concerns, but I want to circle back to it. According to your own department's Office of Inspector General's OIG report from last month, I have a copy here in February, the Office of Refugee Resettlement often transferred unaccompanied children to adult sponsors in the U.S. without thorough screening. Additionally, the report alleged that HHS neglected to conduct timely safety assessments after the children were released. The findings revealed that 16% of child case files lacked documentation of sponsor background checks by ORR. This is extremely disappointing. As a mom myself, it's my deep concern that many of these children fall victim to child labor and sex trafficking. Mr. Secretary, I'm a mom, you're a father, correct?
Yes.
Do you share my concerns in this?
Congresswoman, not just for my kids, but any child, we owe them a great deal more attention and the services that we would expect for our own children. So I absolutely agree that we have to do as much as possible.
Okay. You mentioned to my colleague, Congressman Clyde, that they do background checks on all adults in sponsor households before releasing the children. I believe the truth is that you all only started doing that after this OIG report came out this year, exposing them for not properly screening kids. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct.
Okay.
We have done background checks from the very beginning. Now, what I will tell you, and because you referenced an OIG report that was from 2021, and it covered, I think, about a 2-month period, which was when we were seeing the height of the influx of children. And because, as I mentioned before, our obligation is to place them in the care of a sponsor, because it's always better to be in a family setting than in a congregate care setting for any child, especially very young children. We have an obligation by law to try to place them. And so we were going through the process of trying to make sure we did it efficiently but safely. And so what we are now experiencing is a very different situation. And what we have learned over the course of these last few years is how to make sure we do it as good as possible. And so that's why we now have different categories of kids and how we treat them in trying to vet their sponsors. And so we continue to learn. We appreciate the work that the OIG did to give us recommendations. In almost every case, we have either completed or are on the way to completing many of the recommendations, because at that point, we were flying the plane while it was still in repair. And what we are now doing is making the best use of everything we've learned to make sure best practices are being applied for these children.
Okay, well, that's a nice segue to my next question, because it's my understanding that we have shattered the record for migrants crossing the border illegally with over 2 million just last year. So would it be accurate to say that HHS and ORR are overwhelmed with processing and vetting placements for these children?
No.
Okay.
Today, no.
Okay, I beg to differ. It's been reported that ORR has lost contact with over 85,000 children. That seems that ORR is overwhelmed, or that they are not doing their job. I have a simple solution to solve this crisis, and that is for the administration to secure the border and enforce our immigration laws. With that, I yield back.